use. Today, we are going to be talking about, ooh, my camera's not working on, oopsies. We're going to do this. Okay, I got it on YouTube. Hey, hello. We are going to be talking about the mistakes to avoid with your digital storytelling today. So if you're new here, you're new to my channel, again, I'm live on Instagram and YouTube. So excited to see all of you today. My name is Michelle Knight. I'm the founder of Brand Mary, and I help entrepreneurs build authentic brands online using the power of storytelling. And we have been talking the last few weeks about digital storytelling. So I shared the difference between your brand story and digital storytelling. We've talked more last week on what your stories actually need to include. And now we're going to talk more about the mistakes that I want to make sure you avoid when you start showing up, creating content, and sharing your stories online. So if you want to go back and watch any of that previously recorded content, I do have it on my Instagram and I also have it on my YouTube channel. So be sure to go back and check out some of those resources as well. But I want to jump right in to the topic today, which again are the top mistakes that I see people making when it comes to digital storytelling online. Now, just as a caveat, because I think it is important to know this going into this conversation, in a previous video that I did earlier this month, I talked about digital stories and how digital stories are really those micro stories that you are sharing that are either interwoven into your content, right? Or they are standalone posts, standalone stories. And I always, it might be a shameless plug, I don't know, but if you ever want to see it in action, go check out my Instagram, on my newsletter, check out my blog, and you'll see how storytelling really is used digitally in these two primary ways, right? Again, it can be interwoven into, hold on one second, I got to block. I don't know how to block on Instagram. Does anyone else know how? We'll just swipe it. Okay. This is how much I know Instagram. Oh, well, whatever. We'll continue. So it's really important to know that when it comes to digital storytelling, it's a lot of micro stories. You're always coming up with new stories. You're always sharing different things. It's so much different than your brand story, which really is the founder's story, or share those chapters in your journey to starting your business and what you ultimately have created. So I think that's important to note because you want to remember that these are micro stories based on experiences, based on your personal journey, based on client conversations, based on your clients' testimonials, and all of these different things as well. All right, so let's get into it. The number one mistake that I see people making when it comes to their storytelling is that it's all about them, right? And as a brand and as a business owner, it's really important that it's not all about you. It has to be about your ideal customer. Your ideal customer has to be front and center. Now, you as a brand will be sharing personal stories. It's just natural. And in fact, for many of you, it's going to be the easiest way to get started sharing your stories online because you get to pull from real life experiences that you have. And so when you're doing that, you are obviously speaking from a first person. You are sharing this experience, but it's so important that before you even start writing the story, you are taking into consideration how it circles back to your ideal customer. So that the story at the end of the day, while it might be about you and it might be about something that you experience, it relates back to your ideal customer. Now, I've shared this post recently, and I think it's a great example because it's about bread and my ideal customer, which like those two things don't naturally just go hand in hand. But I make sourdough, and it's something I'm super passionate about and I absolutely love. And while I was making sourdough recently, I was thinking about the process of making sourdough. And I was thinking about how, oh man, when I started, I didn't want to start because it felt overcomplicated and it felt really, really hard and time consuming. And when I started, I really sucked and I wasn't great at it. But now it's so easy. And now that I've been doing it every week, multiple times a week, it looks beautiful and I fine-tuned my strategy and I figured out what works well for me. And it's the same as my ideal customer when it comes to content creation. That is such a good example of a personal story, a personal experience that circles back to your ideal customer. So you always have to bring it home. You always have to bring it back to them because they are the ones that are reading it. They are the ones that we are wanting them to take action, right? We are sharing the story to them specifically. We're not sharing it to the entire internet. No. Remember, it's not for everyone. It's for your ideal customer. So It always has to be about your audience. The easiest fix for this that I tell my clients is that before you even start writing the story or sharing the story online, just identify how it connects to your ideal customer. Super simple, super easy. And then as you craft the story, make sure that you are bringing it back to them at the end. You're pulling them in, you're asking questions, you're using really strong copy. I shared some of these different ways that you can do that in my video last week, but I'll be diving deep into this process and sharing exactly how you do that, the frameworks, templates inside of my new Storytelling Made Simple course, which launches next week. So if you want to take it a step further, I'll share how you can do that on the live today. All right, the second mistake that I see entrepreneurs making is that they're just telling their brand story over and over and over and over and over again. I love your brand story. I help my clients write their brand story all the time. I think I've got a great brand story. However, this is the one area where you repeating that same story over and over again might actually be hurting you because people want to see different sides of you. They don't want to just know how you created your business. There's a time and a place for that. Your About Me page is a great place for that. And your About Me page, when done correctly, can get you clients on a regular basis. I have people who say, I want to work with you. And I'm like, great. How did you discover me? What made you make this decision? And they say, I found you on Google, was looking around for brand strategists, read your About Me page, and knew that we would be a great fit. No call, no nothing. Like, a story is that powerful. And there is a time and a place for your brand story. Absolutely. I love it. I want you to have it. I want it to be nice and beautiful. And I want you to repurpose it strategically. And what I mean by that is that you do want to share pieces of your brand story on social media every 30 days. You want to be really smart and have like a highlight on your Instagram for an About Me so people can jump right in and learn about you. We already talked about your About Me page. You can even then take your brand story as a larger umbrella and break it down into micro stories that you can share. But this can't be where you stop. You just can't stop at the brand story. You have to really turn on your awareness, heighten your awareness around storytelling, and be pulling from things all the time. And it's so interesting because once you do this, once you like kind of like flip the switch in your mind around digital storytelling, stories are everywhere, and suddenly you're super aware of different experiences and different things that can become stories. It's like when you want to go buy a new car, and you think that, oh, this is the type of car that I want to buy. And then you see it everywhere. So it's really powerful in that way, which is so amazing. But many times people stop because they're like, oh, I have my brand story. I'm done. This is it. And it can't be it. And we have to really strategically integrate these stories into all of our content moving forward. So again, work on your brand story, finalize your brand story, make it wonderful, get it on your About Me page, integrate it into your freebies and your downloads. Make sure that you've got a feature on your Instagram. If you're on YouTube, you can create a highlight video about your story, break it down and share it every once in a while, every 30 days is kind of what I like to do on Instagram. But you need to be sharing more types of stories to show your mission, to show your values, to show the work you do with your clients, to show what your product provides, to show transformations before and after of your clients and what they've gone through and how obviously your products and services has supported them, as well as letting people into who you are. And I'm going to share that in number 4. I'll talk more about that, but that is really, really important. Okay. The third mistake that I see entrepreneurs making when they are showing up and sharing stories online is that they're forgetting the next step. They're forgetting to say, hey, this is what I want you to do with this information. This is where I want you to go. This would be a great resource for you. And I think sometimes when we start sharing stories online, the CTA just like flies away. It's like everything we know to be true about marketing online, like giving people a call to action, giving them the next step. It's like, but I'm sharing stories online. But I'm just like sharing stories and my experience and building trust. It's like, yes, absolutely. And I love that. And it's so powerful for that. But if someone is engaged and someone is reading the story and someone is reading that full post or reading that whole blog post or watching that entire video, you've got to tell them what to do next. They are there. They are like ready to take the next step. And that can be different based on what your goal is with the content you're creating. As I've mentioned, I integrate story into pretty much everything that I do. If it's on social media, maybe it's just for people to comment. Maybe it's just for people to share it. Maybe it's you have a really great resource that can help them with something. Like I shared my sourdough example. Maybe I say, if you're really struggling to get started with content creation, check out this video that I made. Check out this blog that I made. Don't leave them hanging. Because yes, storytelling is natural, right? You're all great storytellers. Let me just say that in case you haven't heard. You're all great storytellers. You tell stories every freaking day, but we start to overthink it when we sit down and we're like, I have to tell a story now in my business. And it's like we completely overthink the process. You already can be really great at telling stories, okay? But you're a business owner. You're not just a storyteller. You're a business owner. You need to make money. You need to sell products. You need to sell your services. So if someone is engaged and you pulled them in and storytelling is working for you, give them the next step. A CTA is one of the 4 C's that I share in storytelling framework. All right. And I talked about that in last week's video. So definitely go back and listen to that. But every single thing that you create should have some sort of CTA, even if it as simple as share this with a friend, comment below, send me a DM, or grab this freebie, check out my program, right? Obviously, don't be coming out of left field, telling a story and then having a CTA that's completely unrelated. No, it needs to always tie back. That's why, as we talked about in the beginning, it's so important that before you even start crafting these stories or any type of content, that you already know how it's supporting your ideal customer, how it relates to them, and what you ultimately want them to do with this information. That's just great content practices out of the gate. All right, number 4. Okay. And then after this, I am totally open to questions if you all have questions for me today. I'm keeping this one a little bit shorter because it's beautiful weather outside and I'm ready to go outside and be in my garden. But if you have questions, go ahead and type them and I'm happy to answer those for you today. Number 4 is that you're not sharing your personality through your storytelling. And I think this is just a general content like must have that a lot of people are missing. It's so easy to take a trend and just repeat a trend or grab a template and just fill in some stuff in the template, or educational content. I love me some educational content. Despite what you might be hearing online, I do still think educational content works and it has its place in the consumer buying journey. I think we still absolutely need to be creating educational content. However, you can't build everything just around that. You've got to showcase your personality. We know that people want to know who you are. This is why things like Instagram stories and TikTok and just showing people behind the scenes of their business, just being themselves, doing their things, B-roll, as I talked about a couple weeks ago. That's why these things are so powerful. It's why your About Me page is the second most viewed page on your website, because people want to know about the person or people behind the brand. So you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not oozing your personality into your content. And storytelling is an excellent way to do that. And one of the ways that you take it that next step is sharing those personal stories. Again, we're going to go back to the example that I gave before because it's just a really good one. You learned from that process that I've been creating content for a long time, right? That when I started, I also sucked and that I also didn't know what I was doing. You also learned that I bake bread and I make sourdough. And those are all things about my personality that you kind of can have like a little bit of a visual maybe about who I am and like what's important to me. I'm relating to you, my ideal customer, with the struggles that you have in terms of content creation. It's a personal story that's showcasing parts of my personality while also positioning my brand and my business as the solution for so many people online. And this is important because, again, when there are a bunch of people doing what you do, and there's a bunch of people who do what I do too. I'm not the only one that does it. What differentiates you? Your story and how you're showing up online and your personality and how people connect with you. Just like I shared before, when people come to my website, find me cold audience on Google, and then they say, oh, I know I want to work with you. I checked out your Instagram. I listened to your podcast. I read your about me page, all these different things. And I know that this is the right fit. I know that you're the right mentor for me or strategist for me or whatever they're ultimately hiring me for, without a conversation, without a phone call, no phone call happening, because you can tell who I am from what I'm sharing online. And the best way to do this, if you struggle and you're like me and you need like a good pie chart or something, like what percentage should I be doing this? 70% of what you're sharing online should be primarily focused on what it is that you provide, the problem that you solve, your services, your products, like what you're ultimately delivering in return for payment. Okay, your expertise. And 30% should be about showing who you are, showcasing your personality, your values, your mission behind the scenes, the type of person that you are, and how you move through your life. And it's a lot easier to do than people think. But just showing up and sharing stories is the first step. The second step is really focusing on stories that showcase who you are so people can start to build those connections. And it's often those stories that lead to more engagement because they're human and they're real. And this is what people want online. Human marketing is not dead, it is being craved by so many people because of the rise of AI and bots and things like that. You know what I mean? And so you're doing yourself a major, major advantage if you are prioritizing authentically showing up online. Storytelling is such a great way to do that. So just to recap the 4 mistakes to avoid. Number 1 is that it always has to be about your ideal customer. So if it's only about you, you're making this top mistake. You can't do that. Even though you're the one telling the story is your experience. It doesn't always have to be, by the way. I talk about client stories and all those different things. It's always got to circle back to your ideal customer. Number 2, don't stop at your brand story. It is important. I love it. Let's get it done and let's move on with our lives, okay? And let's focus on digital storytelling, those little micro stories that you share to build trust, to move people through the consumer buying journey, to showcase stories about your product, clients, all those different things that we've talked about. Number 3 is you're making the mistake of not going the extra step if you're not adding in some sort of CTA. So you're bringing it back to your ideal customer, but now we also need to tell them what we want them to do. What is the next step? Because again, if they're still there, if they're engaged, they're ready to take it. But if you don't tell them, they're not going to do it. It's like so many of my clients, when I get it, I do it too, where we get into like this motion of creating content and sending emails. And we're like, oh man, nobody is inquiring about my services. And I'm always like, when's the last time you told people what you provide? When's the last time? And they're like, oh, it's been a minute. Second they tell people what they provide, inquiries start coming in. Right? It's like we just need to tell people what's available to them. It seems so simple, but it's so easy to forget. And then number 4, the big mistake that I see is that you're showing up and you're sharing stories, but you're not sharing stories that highlight who you are as a person so that people can really get to know you, get to know your personality, and start to find those little connection pieces that are so important in making a purchase decision. So as I mentioned already, this is the 3rd video in a series all about digital storytelling. So if you want to dive deeper into any of the things I've talked about previously, go back to my YouTube channel and watch my previous lives, or you can check them out on Instagram as well. I did one on brand story versus digital storytelling, where I talked more about what digital storytelling is. I also did one last week on what your stories need to include. And then today is obviously the 4 mistakes that I want you to avoid. If you've got any questions for me, now would be the time to pop those in the chat. If you're watching the replay, don't be afraid to share your comments and your questions. I always look, I get notifications. So I want to answer your questions if you have any, or if it feels, better for you to send me a private message or a DM, I invite you to do that as well. I know sometimes I don't like to comment on people's videos and posts and stuff, but I feel better sending a DM. So feel free to send me a DM if you have specific questions about today's video. The last thing that I will share with you, as I've already mentioned, is that one of the reasons I'm doing this digital series is because I am launching a storytelling course next week. It's called Storytelling Made Simple, and it's all about teaching entrepreneurs how to tell better stories in their content. So using storytelling as core pieces of content, as well as learning how to integrate it into your content, like email marketing, video, podcasting, blogs, educational type of content, short form video, and really mastering storytelling as a brand and a business owner, because it's something I've been talking about and teaching for 8 years now. You can go to my blog, you can check the receipts. And I'm really excited to finally share it in a standalone course. So it's been integrated in so many of my products before, but I've never taken it this step to really diving into the nitty gritty of digital storytelling. It, in my opinion, is going to be the most comprehensive storytelling course available for online business owners and entrepreneurs, especially those of you that have a personal brand. You're in the service-based industry, think coaching, consulting, yoga studio, membership, digital goods, digital products. It's going to be fantastic. If you want to go ahead and get on the wait list or just learn a little bit more about it, you can go to brandmerry.com/story. That's BRANDMERRY.com/story. And you can join the wait list and you'll be the first to find out. Special 24-hour pre-enrollment bonus, which is a one-on-one call with me. And we get started in March and I am super jazzed, super excited. So again, if you have any questions about the live today or any of the lives that I've done, I invite you to send me a DM or comment below, whatever feels best to you. These replays will be up, so I hope you have a chance to come back, circle back, watch it, check out the previous videos that we've done. And again, head to brandmerry.com/story if you want to learn more about how I can support you with digital storytelling. Okay? It doesn't look like we have any questions today, but I really appreciate you showing up. I appreciate you tuning in, even if it was just for a couple minutes or you stuck around for the whole video. Thank you for taking the time. I'm going to go now sit outside in my garden where I belong. Okay. I hope you have a great rest of your day and I will talk to you soon. Bye.